Welcome to this explainer. Look, today we are officially putting an end to sluggish mornings. We're going to build the ultimate step-by-step morning routine. And we're doing it not by guessing or just trying really hard, but by looking at the hard science. We're going to use neuroscience to trace an idealized timeline, literally from the exact moment your eyes open all the way to your daily commute.
Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever woken up after a full 8 hours of rest, stared up at the ceiling, and just felt completely wiped out? Why do we still hit that snooze button and feel incredibly sluggish despite getting a full night of sleep? It's a super frustrating cycle, right? It just leaves us stressed out before the day is even properly begun. A lot of people think they just lack discipline. They think, oh, I'm just not a morning person. But the secret to waking up energized actually isn't willpower at all. It's neuroscience. The true key to reclaiming your morning energy lies in understanding our biological responses and optimizing our habits to work alongside our body's natural rhythms rather than constantly fighting against them.
To get us there, we'll follow this chronological roadmap. Number 1, the wake-up window. Number 2, movement and cold exposure. 3, the optimal breakfast fuel. 4, perfecting your coffee timing. And 5, making the routine stick.
All right, starting with phase 1, the wake-up window, starting on the right foot.
In these very first moments, before we can even think about building good habits, we have to clear the slate of the bad ones. Research out of the Technical University of Moldova identified several detrimental habits we absolutely need to avoid right out of the gate. Starting your day in a rush, that just spikes your stress levels and creates this lingering sense of wasted time. Spending prolonged time in bed while immediately scrolling on your phone causes you to procrastinate, which leads to massive time management issues in those crucial first hours. And skipping breakfast? Doing that actually puts unnecessary pressure on your body, tanking your energy, and even weakening your immune system. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast in the data. This university study is based on a Quora questionnaire, and look at this. A massive 65% of successful people prioritize exercising in their morning routine. And down there at the very bottom, only 7% are prioritizing social media. Success leaves clues, and staring at a screen in bed clearly isn't one of them.
Moving right along to phase 2, movement and cold exposure, waking up the body.
Now, to wake up the body, you absolutely don't need a grueling 2-hour gym session to see the benefits. In fact, studies show that even a super simple 5-minute movement routine significantly improves your blood sugar, your hormone levels, and your mood. Moving your body in the morning increases physical performance and triggers the release of dopamine in the brain. And that dopamine? That is a powerful tool to relieve stress and depression right at the start of your day. And well, if you want an even bigger dopamine hit and you don't mind a few seconds of pure agony, you might want to consider the temperature of your shower. Data shared by Stanford neurobiologist Dr. Andrew Huberman shows that a cold shower can lead to a dramatic 2.5 times increase in dopamine levels. This isn't just a quick jolt either. It results in increased mental clarity and alertness that actually lasts for several hours. It literally forces your body to switch into working mode.
Next up, phase 3, the optimal breakfast fuel, feeding your energy systems. So the crucial point is what happens when we finally sit down to eat.
Because once we're out of bed, moving, and fully alert, what we consume really matters. Let's compare the biological impacts here. If you grab a sugary pastry or a bowl of sweet cereal, you get a rapid spike in blood sugar. Sure, it gives you a quick burst of energy, but your body immediately rushes to lower that glucose. That leads to a rapid crash, fatigue, and your hunger returns fast. On the flip side, a high-protein breakfast, we're talking eggs, Greek yogurt, or a specialized high-protein cereal, takes much longer to digest. It gives you stable blood sugar, a steady energy release over several hours, keeps you full way longer, and supports muscle repair. It is literally the biological barrier that prevents that dreaded mid-morning slump.
Which brings us to phase 4, perfecting your coffee timing, delaying the brew.
Now for the habit busy professionals anticipate the most. Reaching for a cup of coffee the second your eyes open is actually counterproductive. Think of it this way. At minute 0, when you wake up, your body naturally begins clearing a sleep-inducing chemical called adenosine. Then, between 30 and 45 minutes, your body experiences a natural hormone surge known as the cortisol awakening response. This is your body's built-in alarm clock getting you ready for the day. Because of this natural biological process, Dr. Huberman and research from Ember Coffee suggest the absolute optimal window for your first coffee is actually delayed. You want to aim for between 90 to 120 minutes after waking. Ember Coffee's research puts it brilliantly. They say drinking coffee during this cortisol spike is a bit like shouting into a megaphone that's already at full volume. You are adding stimulation when your body's already doing the work. If you drink it too early, you intercept your natural cortisol spike and leave residual sleepy chemicals floating around in your system. And that sets you up perfectly for an afternoon energy crash. Wait 90 minutes, and you let your biology do its job first.
Finally, Phase 5. Making the routine stick. Let's move to the behavioral science and see how this builds.
We know the biological why, but to actually implement the behavioral how, building a new morning routine doesn't require massive amounts of willpower, not if you use smart behavioral science. We can look directly to James Clear's Atomic Habits framework for this. He breaks behavior change down into 4 actionable micro-steps. First, make it obvious, like physically setting an alarm across the room. Second, make it attractive. Bundle the new habit with something you already enjoy. Third, make it easy. Remove all friction and commit to just a few minutes to start. And fourth, make it satisfying. Celebrate your tiny wins to release dopamine and physically wire that new habit into your brain.
One of the absolute most effective ways to apply this framework is through habit stacking. This is simply the practice of identifying a habit you already do every single day and stacking a brand new behavior directly on top of it. The reason this works so incredibly well is that your current habits are already built deeply into your brain's neural pathways. So for example, if you already pour a cup of coffee every single morning, you stack the new habit right there. You say, after I pour my cup of coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute.
You know, you really don't have to overhaul your entire life overnight. Small changes over time snowball into entirely new directions. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Looking at all the science of movement, nutrition, and timing we just covered, what is the one tiny habit you will stack tomorrow morning? Thank you so much for watching and enjoy your newly energized mornings.